Hey guys, this is Evan. I'm going to walk you through the full workflow of getting uh, VR footage, stitching it, fixing parallax errors, and ultimately getting it to your comp so that you can make a 360 documentary. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into one of these two hard drives over here. Um, this one I've already organized all my media, as you can see over here, and so I've color coded it. Um, the reason for doing this is because I need to kind of know that this red shot was the first camera of the same shot as this red one, as this red one, as this red one, as this, and so on and so forth. Um, and so this is just how I chose to organize my media on this on the on the brink of famine project. You could do it a different way, but I found that this one worked pretty well for me, and uh, so that's that. Let's take this one that I color coded in blue. I actually don't. I think I had stitched it before, but let's just do it again from the beginning. So I'm pressing Command in order to do multiple selections. And so I'm selecting all these blue ones. Okay, I have those. And now I'm going to open Autopano Video, the most recent version. I'm not sure whether I have the most recent version, but we'll just use what we've got. And it says here, drag and drop your videos for a project. So I'm going to take all of these that I've selected, and I'm going to drag them into this window. That's 7 videos. And just wait for them to come in. And here we go. So now I see that they're all here. If I just drag this down. And now what I have to do is, the first thing is to sync them. So what I'm looking for is, so I clap sync this footage. So what I'm looking for is, I'm going to look for times where I can see myself clapping. I'm going to move the timeline ahead a little bit, which, as long as this box right here is checked, it's going to move everything down a little bit. But none of these, because the camera was, each of the cameras was started at a different time, none of these are actually going to be in sync yet. So I just need to get, I'm looking for one video in which I can see myself clap. So there I am. I'm clapping at 21 seconds in this video. And so I'm going to go into the synchro tool, pop up. And so what this is asking me is, okay, as long as I have this part selected here, the range over here that I put is going to be, I think it defaults maybe to 10 seconds, but over here I have it at 30 seconds. So I'm going to say, look for 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after this point on the timeline in order to find a moment where all of the audio can sync up. And so let me just hit use audio to synchronize. Now what tends to happen is you tend to not quite get it on the first shot. And and it does kind of require some processing power of your computer in order to figure out where the time overlaps. But in some ways, it's kind of like a little bit more of an art than a science. This stuff, it's sort of like knowing your footage and kind of knowing how to work with it, and the syncing and stuff like that. So that was it. So it found an accurate synchronization. It took a little bit, but it did find it. So I'm just going to hit apply here on the bottom. And so everything should just be lined up. That's kind of unusual. It usually takes me a little bit longer. Sometimes what I'll have to do is just kind of hit apply and then find another time to sync it, and then hit apply a couple more times. But this one, even though it took a long time, it figured it out on the first shot. So I'm hitting apply just to make sure. And now I'm going over here. I'm going to stitch, which is the equivalent of hitting this button over here. And I'm just going to say, okay, I know that they were GoPro 3+4s. These were GoPro 3 pluses, and I'm just going to hit stitch. Actually, sorry, that was the wrong selection. Let's do stitch. Okay, so it looks like it's stitching. I'm getting this kind of this sort of like progress wheel on the bottom. And when it's done, I should have one contiguous image of all of the 7 composites that I put in and synced. And there I go. So just off the bat, if I kind of scrub through it, I can see that as it updates, yeah. So there I go. So this looks about right. The horizon's not correct, but I can just kind of even that out really easily. In the Autopano video itself, I just drag this down, just kind of even it out a little bit so I can see what's going on. I'm going to move this over so I can see this cow head. Okay, cool. So what's happening in this shot actually is the cow's he's moving over to lick the microphone. I'm just going to hit apply right here. And I'm seeing right off the bat that I have these errors right here. So I'm going to try one thing before I move on. Let's just say, I don't necessarily know. I don't know that I really want to have the cow this close in the shot, but let's kind of assume that for our purposes that we need him to be about here in this shot. I think it'll be useful for us to use that as an example. So the one thing I'm going to do is because if you remember, I'm not going to move it back because it's a lot of memory, but when I first did the stitch, my cursor was back over here. Okay, I guess I am going to do it, and it was. I'm going to drop the resolution here so that it's faster to see. I was actually in the camera view when I did the stitch, and so now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to actually try to restitch it. I'm just closing these panels. I'm gonna there. So I'm over here, and so the stitch that the Autopano is calculating includes me in the image, but actually I'm not in. Ultimately, I'm not going to be in the image in the end. So it's better to find a moment to restitch it to where there's a fairly kind of like even, there's sort of an even distance between the subjects and the camera. That way you're not. That way the camera's not trying to compensate too much for what's going on here. So this is about right. There doesn't seem to be really nothing's like too close to the camera. You have a parallax error over here and some over here. It's not great, and you have some color stuff over here. But in the meantime, I'm going to hit restitch and just see if I can get a slightly better stitch. Now you can restitch as many times as you want. It's just kind of going to create the same reference panoramas, and it's ultimately, if I look back to see where it's doing it, what's actually happening is Autopano is kind of creating these files. It's creating this GoPro 00 file, which is like a reference. That was, I think, from another shot, but it's doing it'll create these kind of like .pano files, and then it'll create these reference JPEG files, which are mostly just temporary files, but they kind of let the program know what the kind of like key reference points are. So this stitch is taking a little bit, as they all do. And one of the reasons why also, I should say, it's taking this long is because I have these two bars, this red bar and this blue bar, that's running the span of the video. So it's running out of 15,314 frames, or or I can tell you the entire footage of the shot was 5 minutes and 19 seconds. But most likely, I'm not going to for each shot, I'm not going to use 5 minutes and 19 seconds. So what I could do is I can just I can move these in and say, you know what, I only need, after looking through the footage, this is the only thing that's relevant to me. And then if I hit restitch, it's actually only gonna calculate the stitch from this area. So that seemed to be already kind of taking that into account. And we'll see. Okay, so I think that was it. I didn't really get much of a better stitch. It was kind of what it was. I'll do one more thing just before I kind of get into the nitty-gritty. I'm just going to do a quick color fix. So this is the kind of automatic color fix. Mostly what I'm trying to get at is this area over here. That was these are automatic settings. It's just going to do an average color correction across the footage, which should kind of get rid of those dark spots. Okay, not bad. Definitely looks more even. Okay, so now let's kind of let's troubleshoot some stuff. Okay, I'm seeing right here that if I play this footage, it's going to play slowly and it's playing at a lower resolution. I'm kind of going frame by frame. I can see pretty clearly if I zoom in out that I have a problem with this guy's head over here. This guy's face is being cut off. The cow. Let me pause it for a sec. The cow, I don't have any problems with the cow. Over here, the image is pretty good. There might be, I think this over here might be getting cut off. It's a little hard to tell. And then I think that this cow's face, I think, has kind of like a cut off section right over here. Okay, yeah. So you can clearly see that this is, there are some errors that need to be fixed up in this as you look closely. Actually, this isn't a problem. I think the cow's head is just moving back, but as you can see here, like this we should actually fix this if we're going to use it. The way I would do that is I'm going to focus on these two lines right here. So you have 4 of them. The horizon was already fixed. Whenever I do something like this, and then I hit apply, that gets saved, as you can see, to this line over here. And then if I do a color fix, which I had done before, that gets saved onto this line over here. But I'm not going to do anything more with those right now, so I'm just going to close them. The 2 that I'm going to work on now for our purposes are going to be the mask and the stitch timeline. So I'm moving this in so I can see it closer. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut with this cutting tool that I have here. I'm just moving it back because I want to do the cut at the beginning. So I make a selection over here. I have my cut. I double click, and I'm going to do another one over here. I'm going to double click. So what I'm actually doing is I'm creating different what Autopano calls states. So over here I'm in state number 1, and now I'm in state number 2. Now state number 1 for our purposes really is only the section, the rendered section, which is going to be the red here is the rendering interval, and then this is the selection. So I'm really only worried about this. Like anything that kind of happens over here, I don't really care about all that much. But I'm going to do it anyway because there are problems there that I could potentially solve. Move this back just so that it starts at the beginning. So that I start with with effectively a clean plate. So on this side, I know that there's nothing that I've done with the footage. It's just the footage that's as is. And then on this side, I'm going to start making changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Edit, and I'm going to go into the sister program. This is going to open up the sister program of Autopano Video, which is Autopano Giga. And you need to have the full licensed version in order to actually send information back and forth between these two programs, because this is what's going to allow you to fix your footage for the most part. And so let me pause this for a second, and then we'll take it up inside Autopano Giga.